Why isn't it going? Oh, there we go. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. It just takes LinkedIn a little bit while to go ahead and actually fire up the stream. So it's like, oh, my goodness gracious. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Boss Rush. Yeah, it is Friday. What are we looking at? The 15th of November. Oh, my goodness gracious. And yeah, we are blasting through towards the end of the year. My name is Chris Milicinos. I'm the principal evangelist for video games here at AWS and one of the hosts on Boss Rush. And with me today...
Hello, Dean Takashi, lead writer for GameSpeed and VentureBeat.
And with us as well...
Hey, it's Mark Delora.
Hey, it is Mark Delora.
Currently eating his breakfast, but
That's
just
right.
finished.
It's got a hearty crunch.
Yep,
what I have to
crunch
say.
is done.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome.
How are you guys today?
We're good. And unfortunately, Susan is not with us today. She's off parts unknown doing some awesome stuff. So we are going to hold
At a
down the
concert,
fort here
yeah.
today with just the three of us.
Man.
Yeah, with just the three of us here. If those of you that are just dropping in now, if you have any issues with the audio, let me know in the chat. But I think I've got your meters, guys, like buried, like they are when you talk. You're right up at the top there. So I don't know much how louder OBS is going to be able to make this stuff, but
Probably doesn't help that I move my microphone around all the time. Hey,
yeah,
how's
when
it?
you're like
Hey,
this,
how's
you're
it?
like hey there, let me go ahead and jump in.
I don't know why there's a problem.
Oh yeah, that's it. That you blew you buried the needle right
Awesome.
there. But
My NPR move.
That's right. Welcome to fresh air. Oh, so good.
Well,
it's
I
great
was
to see you
excited.
guys.
I met some fans last night, which was a surprise. Usually, I think it's just the three of us talking to each other, but I was at an event last night at Wizards of the Coast. Awesome networking event, and some folks came up to me and they're like, "Hey, we really love the thing you guys do on Friday." I was like, "What? Oh, that's great! Thank you."
Except that they also said, "Hey, make sure their mics are louder."
Yeah. Then she said our audio sucked. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Chris has done some fancy things now to the
Oh yeah.
podcast.
Oh, we certainly have done some fancy things to the podcast. So for those of you that are actually watching us on the live stream there, we can now do some fancy things like, oh, look, we'll just animate and move to our browser selection, or we'll go ahead and be able to bring in guests as well. Oh, there's apparently somebody at my front door.
Uh-oh. Talk amongst yourselves.
Ringing that doorbell. Yeah, but we're also going to be able to bring that chat in and all of that other good stuff. So, yeah, a lot of fun getting this stuff, automated and set up for us. But before we bring that browser back up, we're going to be monitoring both the chats on YouTube and LinkedIn. And so if you have any questions for us, please go ahead and pop them in there, or stories you think we should be discussing that we're missing, please do so. And with that, why don't we go ahead and jump right in, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Mr. Takahashi,
Yeah.
you're always good for a story.
Okay,
Why
yeah.
don't you lead us off?
Well, there were a couple of days where I did 10 stories this week, so it was a busy news week.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was a slow news week.
No,
You only
it was
did 10.
It's busy, actually. One of them was interesting in that Andrew Wilson, the CEO of Electronic Arts, his name came up as one of the candidates in a Wall Street Journal story about who's going to be the next Disney CEO. Bob Iger is in the process of just temporarily rerunning Disney right now. And he is expected to give up his seat, in the next year, 2 years or so. And so they're searching for his successor, and Wilson's name came up as one of 3 candidates outside. I did hear that he was not necessarily considered any kind of front runner for sure,
Oh.
And I actually sent him a message this week, and I said, if you want to get a job in Hollywood, he should come to our Hollywood and Games event on December 12th.
That's
And,
a good idea.
This would sort of cement the deal for him. And
Look at Dean.
he sent me a ha back. So
yeah,
I guess that's a no.
Always be closing. ABC.
Yeah, he was a little
always
busy
be closing.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, though. You should do that.
yeah,
Everybody should do that.
yeah. But no, I don't know. Like he checks off the Disney needs to video games sort of box, and he checks off sports as well. Like he knows the sports, but Mike Minotti on our staff, who's the sort of the Disney nut, pointed out all these other things that the insiders probably know better, which is merchandising, theme parks, everything that Disney does, cruise ships, all. So there's a lot on that list that Wilson is I don't think he's ever driven a cruise ship or anything like that, so interesting how you would come up for a successor to Disney.
Pretty soon they'll ship EA's new Cruise Ship Simulator 2025.
Well, look, I would imagine that Mr. Wilson has really good knowledge of how Disney licensing, branding goes, given that they were doing Star Wars games and stuff like that for many, many years, right? So he's already been kind of adjacent to the machinery right there.
I think the heyday, though, might have been when they were making these really big, giant Star Wars games, like as the Jedi games were getting off the ground. So you don't hear so much about EA's canceled a fair amount of Star Wars things, and so it doesn't feel like the partnership is in its heyday still.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him though, for sure, because over the decades, Disney has stepped in and stepped out of games, over and over and over again. And it seems like lately it's really important to Disney, and who has more expertise at giant games than the head of EA. So I wish him luck. We'll cheer him on.
Yeah. No, it's exciting time to think about. Disney has that very big deal, $1.5 billion deal with Epic Games to do the Disney universe inside of Fortnite,
Right.
and it'll be Disney's own proprietary walled garden, but it will be connected to the Fortnite universe, and so in that sense, it furthers Tim Sweeney's ambitions for the metaverse, and it's like maybe set up in a structure that the metaverse could follow. But yeah, I think if you put Andrew Wilson in charge of Disney, maybe he's got other plans than working with Tim Sweeney, right? So,
I don't know.
Yeah, so very interesting. Things could happen, I think. If there's a change in the guard.
Yeah.
Dean, I can't help but notice you're wearing the Meta Ray-Ban glasses.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? More and more people are actually recognizing it. I figured people would not notice. I'm wearing this because I lost my glasses on the way back from Japan, and this one has my prescription on it. So I still haven't gotten my replacement glasses. But meanwhile, it's this weird feeling of I hear beeps every now and then, saying my battery is dying now. It's got some very nice functions on it, like it's got recording video for 3 minutes. You can take pictures just by tapping this bar here. It has bone conduction audio, so it'll transfer sound into your head through your bones, as opposed to inside your ears, right?
Yeah.
And you can hear everything perfectly loud. And I asked people if they can hear people talking to me on this, because they're like AirPods. and then they say no, they can't hear it. So it's loud to me, but it's it's
That's
silent
awesome.
housework. So there's very interesting things, and then ultimately, the AI, which is accessible, kind of like Alexa through these glasses, will be like, hey, what am I looking at? Hey Meta, what am I looking at?
Right.
Oh, I activated.
Oh,
The lights go on, right,
Yeah.
when you're recording and stuff like that. So
oh yeah. Okay.
it's not what you would call the perfect spy cam for somebody, but and intentionally so they put the lights on when someone is recording or something. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I apologize. I was getting stuff set up here. Make sure. I think the audio levels are good. I checked them, listening on my phone. You guys are coming in loud and clear now, which is great.
Okay.
Also, yeah. So, Dean, did you mention have you run into any friction or people going, "Oh, I don't want you recording me here," and that type of thing while wearing them?
They seem to get the idea that the lights would tell them if I was recording, I guess. And I think no, not really. Somebody asked if I was recording, but that was sort of the only thing I've run into so far.
Okay.
I think augmented reality isn't on these glasses yet, right? But eventually, I'm sure it will be, right?
Right.
Much better AI. I think that's the point where you start to worry, like, okay, augmented reality is telling me who I'm looking at, and now I can turn on my recorder and say, okay.
Yeah, I mean there was these two college students, I think 2 or 3, that did that experiment where they hooked it into basically from an app that they wrote, hooked it into kind of like an AI engine on the back end, so that way it would look at somebody, grab their picture, then go out, find information about them, and then report like pertinent information back to them. And so they showed these videos of them walking up to somebody going, "Oh, weren't you the person that was working on this program over like in Europe?" And they were like, "Yes." He's like, "Isn't your name da 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 da?" He's like, "Yeah." "Oh yeah, and your video on." He's like, "How do you know all of this?" "Oh no, I'm a big fan." It's like, oh no, like no. That's not so good. Not so good, right?
It's funny though.
Yeah.
It is
It's a
funny for
different
sure.
future we're headed towards, because somebody's going to compete with Meta and not be
Yeah.
so scrupulous about telling people they're being recorded.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The spy cam industry.
That's exactly right. Also, all I think of is the light is all it takes to let you know. Well, that seems like an easy hack.
Duct tape.
Yeah, duct tape, or open it up and just jumper it
Actually,
without a
well,
light.
I think if you cover it up, it won't activate the video.
Right.
Right.
Oh really?
So
Wow.
that is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. For sure. Yeah. Very cool. Well, that's Gene. You've already gotten 2 of the, I think, 5 teases I put into the post there. Right. One is the Disney one, and then of course the other one was some XR discussions as well. So yeah, well on our way today.
Yeah.
Yeah, some pretty cool.
Catch anything your attention this week, Mark?
Oh, I'm still a little distracted, I have to say.
Yes, I know.
You have election distraction?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have like shaking my fist at the sky distraction.
Well,
That's what
the
I have.
fun continues with all the cabinet appointments, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does get a little interesting to the video game industry at some point, like say maybe when the FTC appointments come up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, to see what they do to replace Lena Khan.
Yeah.
I think will be interesting. I think the thing that aggravated me this morning, and I'll just say it just because, this isn't a political thing, it's a American thing, is that there's news about the incoming administration bypassing FBI security checks for the people they've nominated. And that is just, that should not be possible.
It's a bit of an un-American activity that should be investigated by the FBI.
You can't go to work for those agencies without having these checks.
Their assertion is that like people are going to find things out about them and then they're going to use them against them, like, you know, in the media or something. But the reason these are done is not to like find gotchas. It's to find the things that, you know, foreign countries might use to influence you and figure out ways to mitigate it. And so like it's kind of important from like from an American security perspective.
Yeah. I believe I had to get one when I went into the White House, right?
You did. I'm sure you did. Yeah. Mine went for 8 months when I went to go work at the White House. It was long. I heard from 13 friends who had FBI people stop by to say hello. So it's not exactly a short thing.
Yeah.
But that's why it's valuable.
Yeah.
So I'm a little upset about this. And it's not a partisan thing. It's like an idiocy thing. It's a security thing.
Yeah, that's why, you know, the old joke, right? Oh, if you need to schedule a colonoscopy, just go take a tour of the White House. You know, get one before you go in.
Sorry about that.
Maybe background checks are being targeted by the Doge. You know,
right? Who needs those?
Yes.
You're right. It's just a total waste of time.
Okay, so now we're going to bring it back into the realm of games.
All right, I'm going to make a video game about this. That's the plan. Somebody give me grant funding, and I will go make you a security clearance video game.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're also watching the streams too, we'll go and also just bring up the chats. So now, Mark, if you're monitoring it, you can actually see it. So I've got the chats now up and running for people so we can see what people are saying, which is great. So Jonathan Miranda showed up here today. So hey, good to see you, Jonathan. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. All right, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk. Let's talk game stuff. So if you're if you're still distracted by the other stuff, are you using some games to distract you right now?
I've got a good one piece of happy news.
Okay.
Here, I need to learn more about it actually, so maybe we can talk about it.
All right.
Which was the Internet Archive announcing that they are going to preserve old Unreal-based games from Epic.
Oh, wow.
Which was pretty awesome.
Yes, very much so.
Especially in the wake of conversations recently about the difficulty of software preservation of old video games and some of the DMCA related stuff. Chris, we've talked about this a little bit. That's blocking us from having researchers have access to play old video games.
We should send them our old saved games. And that way we can clear off storage on our machines. Right?
Oh my God. I think it's a business model there. Saving 100 gigabytes of like old Fortnite save or something. I don't know. Old Unreal Tournament saves.
It was part 2 save. I want the lost
Yeah. 100 years from now, people will be able to go on the Internet Archive and find some stupid things I wrote when I was in grad school and my Unreal Tournament saves. They'll be like, how did he end up in the White House? Look how terrible he was in Unreal Tournament.
Also, that is his gamer tag.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this is great. This is a good bit of news. So I'm always looking for good news.
Yeah.
That's
All right, Chris, I do a speed run here on some news. Let's see. So Sony reported their earnings last week. They were up 12%. Do you remember that they did shut down a studio during the last few months here? The Concord studio, Firewalk. But they had an actually very good quarter thanks to Astrobot, Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut, Helldivers 2, and Black Myth Wukong, which for some reason has been stuck getting out onto the Xbox. And so it is going to the Xbox, but it's not yet there. So it stirred some interesting speculation. Nintendo had a quarterly report, and their sales were down by a third compared to a year ago. And so the Switch 2 makes more sense now because people are maybe starting to choose not to buy a new Nintendo system, a new Switch, because the Switch 2 is coming. So we're ending end of life there. PS5 has hit 65 million consoles sold. Sony president said they are signaling a return to single-player games coming out in a big way every year.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I would
Wait,
like to
what?
go back, if we can check the
Stop my speed.
record, which groups here have been talking about single player games being super important to the future of the industry.
Like
It's like
probably
3 of
90% of
us
hardcore
that are
gamers.
here right now on this. Congratulations for everybody catching up. Yes, of course, we want single player games. Not everybody wants to be online all the time. So I'm glad to see them leaning into it.
I mean, the interesting thing is that, say, Astrobot is actually a very big game this year for
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I looked at the number, it sold 1.5 million since September so far. There was so much talk about it and so much social sharing. I thought it was going to be actually much bigger than that. But
Yeah, here's your article. I've got your
maybe
article
it's-
up here for
maybe it's an
viewers.
evergreen story.
Yeah, I hope that's true. It just keeps selling. I mean, it's such a. You could just see the love that was poured into it.
It's
when you play
so
it.
damn good. It's all the feels that you want from a property like that. It's character based. It's based in the history there. It's got all of those really nice, meaty, kind of hunts that happen in the game. All little secrets, like secret entrances that you really need to explore. And it's a collectathon, like actual things you want to see. The models of all the different Sony products over the years. Right, that are in there. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's fired up the original one just the other day to try to close all of the gaps that I had in there. But yeah,
Oh, awesome.
yeah, it is pretty fantastic.
One of the good things about the earnings for the Japanese companies still is that they do these Q&As. I think they're with the analysts, maybe it's the press too, but they open up their brain trust to the journalists there. And so Miyamoto was on the call last week, and he answered questions about what he does and stuff. And he noted that, like, for all the new Nintendo employees, he gives them like a 2-hour talk right when they start.
Nice.
And it's all just sort of his wisdom he's passing on, his feelings about game design, and answers questions that the new people have, and very sort of interesting. I think that he's trying to pass on sort of a lot of his knowledge about games and game design to this next generation that's starting at Nintendo.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
Just fun to find out some cool things like that when you listen to their earnings calls.
Yeah, and what I do love too, he also mentioned somebody was calling him a, like, oh, well, you're a genius in this and that, and he being humble, he's like, I'm not a genius, I just know what I know, and I lean into the things that I love, and I'm so happy to make my impact, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, he said he's a normal person. From this point.
He's a normal person that just happened to make some of the most iconic games in the history of the industry, or lead teams to do that,
And what I love about that is the dichotomy on that, because he's like, I'm a normal person, but I'm sure when a new employee gets sat down for 2 hours with him, they're like sweating bullets.
Yeah, they pass out. Well, I mean, you both have had experience with. The only experience I've had with Mr. Miyamoto was he happened to be sitting at the table next to me at a restaurant one evening during a GDC, and this was back when Iwata was there, and I just couldn't pay attention to anything that was being said at the table. I just kept on going. Like that the whole time.
Yeah, I hear that.
I didn't want to bother him, or I knew, like, one of the other people at the table that I'm like, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Hey, real quickly, Jonathan Miranda here in the chat said there are reasons Astro did better than most. A lot of it had to do with their testing playing model and spent a lot of time with Asobi, an amazing team. Yeah, that's really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Let's see. Lots of other news. Lumikai is an Indian venture capital firm, and they predicted that the Indian game market would grow from about $3.8 billion now to $9.2 billion by 2029. They feel like they're the next China. Whatever played out in China that turned them into the world's biggest game market, India is on its track to follow. The game industry there at 3.8 billion is just shy of 3.9 billion for the whole video and OTT business. So it's just about to surpass TV video in India, and it's already bigger than Bollywood as well. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost all mobile, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Like
that's
98% mobile.
Yeah, I mean, that's their platform of choice. I mean, in looking at usage numbers by generation as well, right? Gen Alpha, video games are by far and away the biggest form of content consumption. And that's across every other vector. Social media, including TikTok and all that stuff. Movies, television, music, reading, games are now the number one form of engagement for them, right? It's we're getting, as we also then get better pathways into market with content, more distribution opportunities, more distribution technology. We're going to continue to widen the market. Like, we're not done. 3.3 billion people. That's less than half the world. We still got half the world to go. Right. So yeah, it's awesome. I did want to go back and say one other thing before we blast ahead here. Well, actually, two things. Number one, you're talking about the Switch 2, and then the drop in sales on their units. Yeah, of course, right. That's that Osborne effect problem, right? We've announced it; it's coming, and people are like, "Well, I can just kind of hang off and wait." And that also then, I think, opens up opportunity for other platforms, like we talked about, like the Meta Quest 3S and stuff like that, to kind of suck up the oxygen that's going to be left in the room there, right? So,
by the way, that Osborne effect thing, the one thing they did announce, they said nothing else about the Switch 2, right? But the one thing they didn't announce was that it's going to be backward compatible to all the Switch games. And so what they're trying to do is stop that Osborne effect, where, like, if they announce this new system, people are going to worry, oh, I should not buy any new Switch games now because they won't work on the Switch 2. In fact, they are going to work on the Switch 2. So Nintendo's trying to keep sales going while they're in this transition.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Exactly. And a really good point. And that's something that's going to serve them obviously really well. But what was the other thing I was going to say? Well, I forgot. So I'll just interrupt you again. When I remember. But yeah, that was the.
I go to couple of other interesting pieces of news this week, and that is the venture capital game VCs are coming back to life in a bigger way, right? So there's a company called BitOdd out of Finland, and it's run by it's a new startup formed in 2020, and it was formed by the game lead for Clash of Clans.
Oh, nice.
And he was also the art director for Clash of Clans. He's been making games for 32 years, and Griffin Gaming Partners led the round for them for a new set of mobile games coming, and they raised $18.2 million, which for a company's first funding round, that is pretty enormous. They had have a lot ready, like they showed them a vertical slice of gameplay and what the game is going to look like, and but it's only I think 14 people or so, or a dozen people, and they're staying small, getting the gameplay right, and then at some point they're going to scale up. We'll probably have to use a lot of this money for user acquisition, but still, it's nice to see a nice chunky big round. The other round that was announced this week was Ruckus Games raised $19 million for a suburban invasion RPG shooter with multiplayer, and they happen to be based in Frisco, Texas, which is the same city where Gearbox is based, and a fair amount of people are spun out of Borderlands and Gearbox to make this new company. So getting $19 million again, just barely edging out the other one, but it's good to see this activity as signs of economic life in the game industry. Like, this is these are seedlings that are being planted here
Yeah.
in a big way. So,
Yep. Sorry, if the Bowser snoring is ever annoying.
That's
let me know. I tried to move my microphone closer. I got to play with the gain on this sometime. He heard us talking about him. He said snork. So
He's like, "What are you
Bowser
doing?"
said snork. One piece of news that I was looking at was the news about Tencent's new Japanese studio opening up. Run by Itsuno-san, Hideaki Itsuno, who was the director of franchises like Devil May Cry, Power Stone, Capcom versus SNK, Dragon's Dogma, which I didn't play. Always interesting.
They did it under the Lightspeed label, right? Or
Yeah.
Lightspeed Studio, and I guess Tencent is very interesting that way. In that, like, there's so many different parts that they have as labels, like Level Infinite and Supercell, and I think they don't always like to draw attention to themselves, as Tencent is doing another big thing here.
Right.
And so, like, I think they don't always know how it's going to go over, and it does make sense for their divisions to do this kind of investment, start up a new studio. I don't know. So, yeah, it looks like a pretty big investment too, and it's good for Japan. Japan doesn't always have tons and tons of brand new studios.
Truth. Yeah. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, we had Jonathan Miranda had posted something here in the chat about a game called it's a simulated MMO called what is it? Aaron Shore. Let me go ahead and pop the browser up there. I've not heard of this before, so I didn't know if either of you have heard of this or this genre, but it's Aaron Shore is a single-player nod to the MMORPGs of the past. Partner with our signature simulated players to experience all the joys of open-world MMORPG gameplay on your own schedule without time commitments. Thousands of items, quests, raids, and secrets to discover. So I just popped it up here so people can go
What
and
does
see.
simulated players mean there? Is it
like a
AI characters?
That is my question.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
maybe
is
it's
my
MMO where there's like people running around and they're all NPCs, but they run on your phone, but it acts like it's an MMO.
There are some very interesting experiments going on, with companies like Fable that are doing experiments where you might train your AI, but then you let your AI character loose in a game and see how it does, either like competing against other human players who have designed or trained AI characters, and they're competing in a world, but you let them compete, you let them go into a live simulation and see what happens, and see what actually evolves from that gameplay. They have something called the simulation that has been in the works, doing that, where like one of these days they hope that that's one of the things that leads to general artificial intelligence, that this kind of behavior could evolve from AI game characters.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. I think you just designed a great system for training people about how AI works. It seems like I've seen games like that in the past where, God, these are like ancient games, where you train a bot to go across a play field and dodge, bad guys and things, and then you set it loose. This is like a common modality for games, but thinking about it in terms of using a neural net is really interesting.
Yes.
So if you train this thing over and over and over again,
this Aaron Shore has simulated AI game characters here.
Yeah.
I mean, as a player,
Jonathan was saying. Yeah.
I don't mean as a developer. I mean as a player. You teach NPCs to like farm your carrots, and you show it how to do it 3 or 4 times. It like actually for real trains a neural net, and then you set it loose and see what happens. Because I think the problem is probably you need to train it like 100 or 200 times. Nobody's gonna do that. Well, I don't know. Maybe they will in a game like Stardew Valley or something.
Yeah. Well, either that or yes, I trained it and I set it loose, and it it harvested
Yeah.
everybody's carrots
Right.
for like 4
Yeah.
kilometers.
And then started rampaging across the countryside, killing people with carrots.
Exactly.
It's
Oops.
kind of though, like the good question is like where's the fun of this? Like you're training something, but you're not actually playing, right? The AI character is playing for you, and it's like you're watching this simulation, this experiment, but it's like it could be like watching your chia pet grow, you know.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you, but that there are people that are like, oh, I'm going to optimize this carrot picking routine with the next, with the next one, right? So we turn anything into a game, but it's kind of like the notion of, oh, well, you're going to have an AI doppelganger, and you're going to be able to have it attend conferences for you and everything else, and just report back to you and act on your behalf. It's like,
Oh yeah, I don't know about
why?
that. Yeah,
For what?
who's gonna go to the parties for me? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Somebody's. This reminds me a little bit of like what you do with a game like Company of Heroes. It's like a fancier version of that. In
Right.
Company of Heroes, you're like, oh, I got to go. There's something happening on the other side of the map, so I'm gonna go into the map. I'm gonna click and send all my dudes over there. I don't know how they're gonna get there. I don't care. They're gonna when they get there, I'm gonna be on the map.
I guess some of the interesting part could be like if you play around with the parameters of the scenario and then see what happens. And like if you had a brink of war sort of game and you want to simulate what's the best way for us to get to a peaceful resolution before these two countries go to war, right? Then running these simulations over and over again, and having the AI react to slightly different scenario parameters,
Right,
actually could get you to the answer, right? This is the path.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And,
Yeah.
well, yeah. I
that'd be fun.
Using those tools to harden pathways and to do testing and all that kind of stuff. But we've been doing that in the games industry for years before we called it like formalized AI systems, right? Or doing them all through LLMs. So it'll just be interesting. Although what I do love, Chris Taylor years ago gave a talk at GDC, and he was talking about when they were doing Total Annihilation. He's like, the problem with getting testers in the room is you're like, okay, here's the scenario, and now you're all going to sit down to play, blah, blah. And they're all like, can I kill that? Can I blow that thing up? What about this? Can that go over there and blow that up? And he's just like, no, please, follow this. But he's like, but that's how you test the boundaries of everything, right? I mean, Black and White, if you remember, Peter Molyneux would give talks about how everybody that played Black and White first starts off as just an asshole of a god, right? Like they're killing everybody and doing all this stuff. And then eventually, after they get that out of their system, they start to understand how to build it for the long term and become more benevolent and this and that, right? So,
and if you guys remember too, who worked for Peter Molyneux, it was the guy
Demis.
Demis Hassan.
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
Nobel Prize winner for artificial intelligence.
Good mind. Yeah, all the great they just released AlphaFold 3, I think, today, didn't they? The protein folding simulation that they've been building.
That's awesome.
Pretty great. Yeah, Demis is a pretty smart guy. Very smart guy.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, what else do we have going on?
Let me look at. We don't have tons of time. Well, Call of Duty Season 1 is out now.
Okay.
And they announced yesterday that the Ricochet system has advanced fairly far, and that they can use the anti-cheat in Call of Duty now to remove cheaters before they start to play. And also in a game before they win. So they can detect the cheating happening in real time through AI, and the AI will spot that, and this is anomalous victorious behavior going on here that shouldn't happen, so we're going to watch it, and while they're watching it they figure out, yep, there's a cheat there, and remove that player from the game. So that's interesting. And the cheat before you play is like if you've got some kind of cheat installed on your system, right? and if and Ricochet, then of course it means that it's deeply embedded into your operating system, right? It knows what's on your machine, right? They have to be very careful with that technology because they know what's on your machine, right? But yeah, they're looking for cheat programs and things like that. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, more and more tools that are doing that. So companies that have services like ToxMod are able to start to do that in real time. And look, it's not about limiting access to people. It's making sure that people are grouped correctly and that it's the best experience for the most amount of players, And I mean, one of the big problems that we have, right, is context, understanding contextually, not cheating, but in just in language. And I always call the kill you problem, right? Which is, we watch a couple people playing a game online, and then somebody is like, "Oh my God, I'm going to kill you." It's like, well, is that a real threat? Or is that, a buddy playing with his friend that he's known for 20 years, like, "Oh, next time I see you, I'm going to kill you for that's really important because."
And I do think the AI is getting there. That they say that, and part of the answer there is to watch those people over time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. And build.
If they're, if they're behaving properly most of the time and they say something like that, then they're not going to ban them for that.
Yeah.
Right? But if they're, if there's an aggressive tone that is detected in the speech,
right,
then they're going to watch that, and if it happens over and over again, they're gonna warn that person. They're gonna ban that person.
Yeah. Mouse is going to town.
I'm starting to actually believe. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to believe that the AI is actually accomplishing quite a bit for some games like Call of Duty.
Oh, I agree, and I hadn't read the article that you all have up here. That Rec Room or reduced toxic chat incidents by 70%, and it's using ToxMod. So
Yep.
All right, shout out to the ToxMod
Modulate
people.
Folks.
Yeah, Modulate folks.
Yep.
There was one bigger piece of news on the acquisition threat too, which again to me signals healthy economic activity in the game industry. So Modern Times Group bought Plarium, which is the big Israeli mobile game developer, for $620 million. It's a nice big deal, and Plarium has they sort of turned over a lot of their different old hit games, but the newest big one for them is RPG Raid Shadow Legends, which I don't know that much about, but they bought this Aristocrat Leisure, which is a gambling company, right? And so Aristocrat Leisure uploaded Plarium here. Modern Times Group is the acquirer. So nice to see this kind of big deal. People often say, "Oh, M&A that only leads to layoffs, right? At the both companies or something like that." But if you look at the full economic cycle that happens from that, some people get rich from being acquired, right? Yeah. Those people, they can decide to go off and start their own new thing with a bunch of new money. They can hire people, right? And those people who are laid off themselves can band together and say, "Let's go start a studio." And so there is activity that sort of rebounds from things like somebody getting acquired, right? And doing layoffs. So I wouldn't always sort of look at these things like, say, Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft. Oh no, thousands of layoffs are coming, right? If you look at a fuller economic cycle that happens, some of these things are good for the industry. It would encourage investors to come into this business because they know that the companies they invest in could get acquired, right? And that's more money coming into the game industry, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
for sure.
Yeah, you're making me think about another one of the acquisition-related announcements that was this past week that I didn't really stare at until now. So, and that's Embracer getting rid of Easy Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that caught my attention in there was the part about MiniClip. So the headline that I saw is Embracer divests Easy Brain to MiniClip in $1.2 billion deal.
Ooh.
And in my brain,
Let's see.
I was like, when was the last time I played something on MiniClip? So MiniClip in my head is like a Flash Games website I used to go to
right?
100 years ago. Yeah. I'm like, so I went and looked at the MiniClip site, and I'm like, holy cow, they bought Cybo.
Yeah.
They're huge. I wasn't paying attention, apparently. Yeah, so that's interesting. So Embracer bought Easy Brain in 2021, or merged with Easy Brain. The finesse on the language there is important, I'm sure. And a deal worth $765 million. And this arrangement doesn't describe it as an acquisition, but as an agreement to divest Easy Brain to MiniClip for $1.2 billion. So I don't know quite what those words mean, but it's a big deal, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's real activity again. But yeah, MiniClip is the owner of Cybo, which is the maker of Subway Surfers, right?
Yeah, which is gigantic. Yeah.
One of the biggest games in history.
Right? An endless runner.
Yeah. My nieces play incessantly.
Yeah.
Well, at least the last 2 Christmases. We'll see about this Christmas if they're still playing it.
I still would love to see Digital Eclipse bring back the Sharknado endless runner that they had, which was great.
Call Mike. Somebody call Mike.
Exactly. So get Mike on the horn. Let's get that done. Yeah, that's huge though.
Yeah, that's just gigantic.
Another thing that caught my eye this week was Secret Level. The anthology series on Prime Video, a TV show made by Blur Studio and Amazon MGM, and it's taking a lot of stories in video games. It feels like they're taking cutscenes and turning them into whole shows. And Blur Studio is famous for making cinematics, right? And all of the very interesting trailers that you see in the game industry. And this one starts on December 10th, right? And once again, brings up our Games in Hollywood event happening on December 12th.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll have to have a talk about that too, because there's some other stuff going on, including like I know you had reported on this, or your team reported on this last week, but Mass Effect adapted to a TV show by Amazon MGM. So I need to call my colleagues over on the studio side and say, how many more of these do we have? That's awesome. We're leaning into it. It's great.
This looks really interesting. But if you haven't checked out the trailer for that, I highly.
Oh yeah, I gotta look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, say, actors that are associated with this. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Keanu Reeves, I don't know, Gabriel Luna, Patrick Schwarzenegger, but Laura Bailey. So a bunch of interesting, and I think it's gonna last for a while, and so. There's different games, I think, associated with each episode.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And then Blur is also the one that gave us Love, Death, and Robots as well.
Oh yeah, which is amazing.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to hear, what comes out of the Hollywood and Games event too. See if I can make my way over there, Dean, and do that. That's a lot of travel right for the end of the year. But
it is on the day of the Game Awards intentionally because we're piggybacking on people coming to town for that.
That makes sense.
Exactly the right way to do it. For sure. Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Did you guys see this thing about the Anti-Defamation League accusing Valve of allowing hate to proliferate on Steam?
Yeah, I didn't look beyond the headline on that. It was interesting.
I didn't either. Yeah, I'm staring at it now, and I don't completely understand it. There's a link to data, and it says They found millions of comments on user profiles and in groups that are extremist and hateful, which I'm kind of not surprised by, I guess. Any platform that doesn't have communication as its primary intent, you're going to have this kind of stuff proliferate, it seems like. Then that's pretty much what they're saying. Steam appears to be technically capable of moderating extremist and hateful content. Why aren't they doing that? Maybe they should call modulate.
Yeah. I mean,
although I think that's mostly for audio.
right. Yeah. So it just sounds like they're
difficult.
Yeah, moderating those types of forums and discussions is massively expensive and very time consuming, right to do. Not that we shouldn't always be doing that, but I guess part of that is when you see something bad, call it out. There are mechanisms to report posts and stuff like that. And hopefully, these tools will get better in terms of, to Dean's point, understanding behavior and being able to start to clamp down on that, right?
Yeah. I'm sure Valve will see this and make some changes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, there were a couple of other ones that popped up here too that I thought were pretty good for the industry. You had them here on the front page of GamesBeat. And where was it? 8th. Let me go back to the homepage here, Dean. It was about kids asking for video games this holiday season.
70-some percent.
76% from the ESA's survey.
Yeah, which is
76%
awesome.
of all kids want video games for the holidays. That number keeps climbing every year.
What percentage of adults?
Well, remember, if it's,
they didn't study that.
If it's kids, we'll also get the adults too, right?
That's the intent. Yeah.
You get it for the kids, and then you play it, right?
And then you want to plan it after they go to bed.
Exactly.
Hey, kid, here's the new Call of Duty.
Exactly. Here's your bottle, and here's your Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right.
You can't control the controller yet. Well,
here we go. Yeah, ESA, 76%. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then the other one was right underneath that one here. Neon raises $14 million to build direct-to-consumer stores for games. That was going to be really interesting to see how that goes too, right? $14 million. Yeah. Now that I think,
that's a lot of money too.
Yeah. Now that the government, have kind of opened up those possibilities, on the back of the Epic stuff, right? Now there's an opportunity for more of these storefronts to come in there. Oh. And even right here in your article, direct-to-consumer digital stores are catching on in part because of the conflict between Epic and Google Play and the app stores, right? So more choice is always a good thing for people. It remains to be seen how many storefronts we can manage. I know for myself in PC gaming, I've got Steam, GOG, Amazon Games, Epic Games Store, and and then I'm bouncing around to figure out what's where, and, which one's going to be available to me on my Steam Deck versus other, that kind of thing, right? So there is a management component to all of that. If you're trying to scoop up all the free stuff, but again, I think
that's interesting. You're thinking about chunking the way that like humans deal with too much information is to chunk things to make it easier to think about, right? I think my chunking strategy is to ignore everything except for Steam. Like I don't go to the Epic Store, I don't go to GOG, I don't go to Itch. But somebody's like, hey, click over here.
People are getting there was a survey done where people do realize that the stores exist and that they plan to go back to them a lot because they realize they're getting better deals.
Right.
So they're buying stuff for in-game skins and things like that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I just assume that the prices are the same across all of the storefronts.
I mean,
they're not though.
Maybe that's not
are not because there's no 30% platform fee, right? That somebody's taking out and passing on to consumers.
Right.
And now they can offer these much lower, and they're paying maybe 5% for the payments.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only that, but then all the free games that you get. So it popped up in a different feed that, oh, the Castlevania collection is for free on Prime Gaming. If you have a Prime subscriber, go download it, and now you own.
That's another great example of things I never do. All the all the Prime Gaming stuff. Yeah, the only time I ever see it is when I log into Twitch and I do the drop down. It's like, here's all the Prime Gaming stuff you've missed.
I will share with you.
Oh,
okay, so I'll share a little bit of inside Chris's own
Mark doesn't like
collection
free
here.
stuff.
So I know. I have too
clearly,
much stuff. I mean, look at my office. It's a mess.
I look, clearly I work for Amazon and all that stuff.
Here's sorry.
Let me see. Where are my games? I must have, and I've not bought a game through Prime Gaming yet, but I must have 160 titles that they've given away for free. Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol, that one is amazing. Cars, they just did, again, the Castlevania, Lego Indiana Jones, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, it's a ton of stuff. And that's the thing. It's like, oh, I'm never going to play it. Yeah, but now at least you have a choice to, right? if you decide you want to.
Speaking of games, I think we're running up on the end. I've pulled out an older game, but I've been playing it way too much this past week, which is Tomorrow's Children. Have you guys ever played that? The Tomorrow Children?
Yes.
I think it's TTC. Which was a pixel. No, I'm sorry. It's like the people who make Pixel Junk Q games out of Kyoto. Dylan Studio.
Dylan Cuthbert, right?
Yeah, Dylan Cuthbert Studio. So when it came out, I played it a tiny little bit, and it didn't land for me. And I was talking to Dylan, and I was like, oh, he seems really proud of this game. I'm going to go back and play it some more. And it's super fun. And I think what makes it really, really fun is, aside from the fact that, it has to do with fascism, not that has anything to do with anything this week, is that the networking component is awesome. So people will just drop in on the world that you're building, and I'm like a little low, like level 2, level 3. I have no tools, this like building and decimation components, and then a random friend will show up and just start helping you out. It reminded me a little bit of the old thing in World of Warcraft. Back in the old days of World of Warcraft, where people would somebody be running past you and they would see that you needed a health and they would like drop a health thing as they ran past, or like you get this feeling of camaraderie in the game. And I was surprised to see that still in this game, despite the fact that it originally shipped on PS4, right? So you can get it on PS5 as well, but it's an older game now, but apparently still has a pretty active community of people.
Yeah. I think that game also was one of the games that launched during like the Stadia sort of stuff. And I believe that was the case. And then when that got pulled, it's like, well, now where do we put it, right? So I'm so glad to see that it's coming out. And I still need to schedule him for Game Industry Legends discussion. We've been just juggling those schedules.
I have
it's been crazy.
A couple things to close with here.
Yep.
So Mythic Quest is returning for its season 4.
Yes.
Yay.
And that should be fun. Rob McElhaney's sort of take on a crazy video game studio as a comedy.
Yeah, but I like your headline for that. Can they keep up the laughs at a gloomy time? Mythic Quest returns for season 4.
Are they going to come to the Hollywood and Games event?
Yeah, and then the other one was the Splinter Cell game that Ubisoft was working on, because Ubisoft contributes to the Mythic Quest show, but they canceled the Splinter Cell movie as well. So that one's not going to happen. And then my last thing is that my 2 books, the Xbox and the Xbox 360 book, are part of a holiday bundle of 12 books on video games.
Holy cow!
For sale in a bundle called the Storybook Bundle. So yay for
bundle.
That.
Where
is that? The Humble Bundle stuff?
No, it's something that David Craddock put together. It's he's one of the very prolific book writers about the game industry. Like he's got one coming on. I don't know if I can't remember. It's out on Doom and just sort of like the making of very different big games out there. And Craddock's been writing for a long time. And yeah, he just put together this bundle of a dozen books, and
Oh,
send
that's
it
awesome.
over.
Yeah, maybe Dean, if you can fire the link off to us, we'll go ahead and pop it into the show notes and stuff.
Where would we find that?
All right, I have to go dig for that right now.
Well, while you're digging for that, I
Post it
popped
back.
up on the screen here for other people. There was this one other story that popped I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
Animal Well's homebrewed engine was key to its success.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So unique.
And Billy Basso talked about why he felt he needed to do this, and it's a pretty interesting article. Obviously, not enough time to talk about it now, but it talks about where he was building a 3D engine and all this stuff. How big is the game, Mark? Is it only like 64 megs or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's the executable. When you download it, you buy it on Steam and you download it, it's like ding, done. Like what? Is that a bug? Is that an error? Is it actually going to run if I click on it?
Oh,
yeah,
that just means there's going to be a 15 gig loader on the back end,
Exactly. Yeah, I played that game a long time.
Put it
That's great.
into the LinkedIn chat here.
Yeah, I'm going to pop it up here on the screen too, so we have at least a screenshot of that. Yeah, anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting.
I
Yeah,
love that.
here's the story bundle right here. Storybundle.com/games.
Oh.
Opening the
All right.
Xbox. Oh, Hardcore Gaming 101. NES Cult Classics. Suddenly I Was a Shark. That looks good. Yeah, Xbox 360 Uncloaked.
And these are digital books.
Very cool. Yeah. Of course. That's okay, Dean. I'm going to just have you sign my flash drive, my thumb drive, when I see it next.
I love it.
Oh, that is awesome.
You can't find them all in stores right now.
That's right. Yeah, so definitely go ahead and check it out before we run out of bits to serve over wires. So yeah, I know we're at time here. Real quickly, so one of the things I've been doing every week on the Rewind show, right? I do all these old video games, and I've probably done like 6 of them on digital clips and all the releases they did. And last week I was going over the first Console Wars DLC for their Atari 50th anniversary collection. I'm like, okay, well, I think I've probably gone through everything they've done right now. And then they went ahead and released the Tetris Forever compilation. Right. So I'll be doing another digital clips breakdown of it, and it is so freaking good what they do. They are just my heroes when it comes to game history stuff. So that's what I've been playing a bit of right now. Apart from also researching new 3D printers, that's what I've been doing. Yeah, we'll have that conversation too.
Oh yeah.
Dean, how about you? What have you been playing real quick before we get out?
I have been writing lots of stories. So I haven't been playing anything. Getting ready for my vacation by churning out stories for next week.
That's right.
That's fair.
I had to do that before I went on my extended vacation. All these premieres that kept popping up. And that reminds me, Dean will not be with us for the next 2 weeks. So it'll either just be me and Mark or possibly Susan popping back in, but we're going to keep it going.
Yeah,
and then,
I'll rent some videos of Dean talking using like Runway ML or something.
Oh, shoot. That scene, I can just go back and clip some of the old video and just pop it into the frame there.
There
Just
you
have
go.
him just
You can't
nodding.
see the
Don't tempt me.
fireside chat I did with Neil Stevenson. It's
Oh yeah, I
been
should see
posted
that.
now. So
Did he bring a sword? That's all I wanted to know.
he did not.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. I've got a couple of other game industry legends interviews that have been lined up for the end of this year. So all that's going to go out in December. I can't wait to talk about those more. But that's all I have for this week. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, watching the live stream. Make sure you go ahead and let people know that we do this every week. And I want to thank, of course, my co-hosts, Dean Takahashi and Mark Delora, for joining us.
Nice to see you guys.
Yay, great to see you too, and hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day and an awesome weekend. And we'll see you next Friday on more Boss Rush. Thanks, everybody.
Play some games.
Yes, go play some games. Turn off the news, go play some games. All right.
Have a good one.
Everyone. All right. Bye-bye.